Viggo, this is your directorial debut. You wrote it, you composed the music, you played the music. What am I missing?
Nothing. That's it. And I did the casting, and that was the best thing I did.
Does that rivet you have stuck in your face bother you?
It's called a piercing, and no, it doesn't bother me.
Is it a dumbass fashion thing or a dyke thing?
Grandpa, why do we always have to start trouble when we get together?
Did they know you were a fag in the army?
I didn't really know it myself.
Welcome to Variety's virtual studio at the Toronto International Film Festival. I'm Mark Malkin, and I am here with Viggo Mortensen and the cast of his directorial debut, Falling, which is a phenomenal movie. So you wrote the movie. Tell us, where did the story come from?
I wrote it originally in 2015, right after my mom passed away, after her funeral. I ended up writing a story that's mostly fictional, but the foundation of it was, I guess, a desire to explore, my feelings for my mother and my father, and also explore, I guess, what I learned from them.
Tell me about reading the script for the first time and reading some of the horrible things that Willis says.
Well, when you first read it, you can't judge it. You just have to experience it. Really, I thought it had so many layers to it that I didn't know if I was intelligent enough to do it. Really to absorb it and start, because I knew instinctively that it was an adventure. This is not something you can memorize the whole script and not, because everything was experiential. You had to experience it, and that would draw out that information, whatever it was.
I knew very little. I was lucky enough to put something on tape for Viggo, being on the West Coast, and got a call back from my agent. I think it was not too long after, but Viggo saying earlier that he was a big part of the casting process is completely accurate. He took time out of his busy schedule last year to come through Vancouver and sit down with me, and we basically talked about the script, the character, and life, things. The script resonated, much like Lance said, very experiential. I thought it was this incredibly intimate, powerful, dissection of this modern day family that, really looks at, history and memories and the way that we relate to family and how these experiences sort of changed throughout the decades. So it was very relatable for me, being in my mid 40s now, lots of lots of life experience. But truly it was such a great experience from the get-go.
And you got to show off your tattoos.
Yeah. We talked about that early on, and Viggo was like, I love them. It's such a great contrast. And visually, the optics of it, considering we're bringing, Lance's character from upstate New York, a very conservative, older man who probably, is a bit shocked by optics at times. So yeah, I love that Viggo sort of we laid into it, it was great.
Hannah, there is that beautiful scene where Gwen just is crying on the couch. How do you go there? How did you do that? And, from what I understand, it was Viggo playing that music also?
First and foremost, the most important thing for a scene like that is to be in an environment where you feel safe to do that. And that was what Viggo created every day on set. And safe and open, and where you can explore vulnerability in a way that feels, somewhat pleasurable at the same time. Gwen reminded me so much of my grandmother, both of my grandmothers, but my dad's mother in particular. And then, of course, she just sort of encapsulated a lot of women of that generation. And to think of, I don't know, just to imagine a whole generation of people who are in that exact same position is very overwhelming. So that was part of it. And yeah, and then also just the heartbreak of not being able to communicate with someone anymore. I think everybody knows that experience.
Viggo, when he called me and told me about the story and the script, I was thinking, wow, am I gonna go to America and play an American? But then I realized that I had seen these characters in the Icelandic countryside when I was a kid, because Willis, he's a strong-willed farmer, father, husband. He's the kind of person that has to do things his own way, and he often puts himself in situations where he pushes people away, and the ones he doesn't push away, he makes them quite codependent. I like Willis. He has a big heart. He's just not very good at emotion.
Viggo, is this whole family dynamic, obviously we all know there are families out there like that. Is it really representative of what's going on in the US right now? I mean, there is just this divide, and it just, like I said before, the movie seems so like it was made yesterday because it's so appropriate for right now.
I do think, I think that's always there, the possibility for hateful behavior, hateful speech, the possibility for polarization in society, and not just in the United States. We're seeing it, all over the world now. Yes, I thought about the fact that the family, or the extended family in our story, could, by some people, end up being seen as a microcosm of society at large, for sure. And I think that's in part why it's said in the beginning, late winter of 2009, right after Obama was elected to his first term, because I didn't want it to be in your face where people would say, oh, that's what he's doing. That's a metaphor for this. Rather than set it in the time of Trump. So, you don't have to look at it that way, but you can certainly look at it that way. How do you deal with people who are inflexible, who don't accept you the way you are, who have no interest in ever apologizing for anything? It's not completely, it's not like you're going to draw a direct parallel to Trump and other types like him exactly with Willis, because Willis, for one thing, isn't a liar. He's just brutally honest, and he is inflexible. But I think even in the relationship, say, of Gwen and Willis, why does a relationship like that not work? What happens? And it's any friendship, really, where both people don't adapt to each other and evolve. Eventually, if one person is inflexible and doesn't want to change, they start to grow apart, and it usually doesn't work out. It's very upsetting. So, you have a choice. It's not obligatory. You have a choice within a family, and you have a choice within society to try to communicate, to be as stubborn about trying to communicate as the other person or people are about not communicating. Doesn't mean you're going to get to find some kind of point of contact, but you might. Certainly, if you give up and you don't want to communicate at all, and you say, well, screw it, I'm not ever talking to you again, or I'm not participating in the political process, or what have you, or I'm not going to speak to my neighbor or the people on my block, then there is no hope for anything. There's no progress.